Have you ever caught yourself replaying a moment in your head, wondering what someone thought of your actions? Maybe you've analyzed a glance, a comment, or even silence, letting it spiral into endless speculation. Why do we let these thoughts consume so much of our mental energy? More importantly, how do they shape the way we live? Welcome to today's journey of self-discovery, where we unravel the chains of overthinking and learn to embrace the freedom of living authentically. Together, we'll explore profound Buddhist teachings, practical mindfulness strategies, and inspiring stories to help you reclaim your peace of mind. If you've ever felt weighed down by the judgment of others or found yourself living for approval instead of for your truth, this video is for you. Before diving in, remember this. Most of the thoughts we worry about aren't even real. People are far too preoccupied with their own lives to give us as much attention as we believe. This is liberating because it allows us to shift our focus from seeking validation to cultivating our inner peace. Let's begin this transformative journey by understanding why overthinking others holds us back and how we can free ourselves step by step. Imagine this. You're walking into a crowded room and suddenly you feel an invisible weight pressing on your shoulders. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind starts racing with questions. What are they thinking about me? Did I say something wrong earlier? Do I look okay? These thoughts, like relentless waves, keep crashing over you. But here's the truth, a liberating truth. Most people aren't thinking about you at all. Buddhism teaches that the human mind is naturally self-centered, not in an egotistical way, but because each of us is wrapped up in our own world of concerns, emotions, and struggles. The same way you're worried about what others think of you, they're likely preoccupied with their own insecurities and worries. Why, then, do we feel so deeply affected by judgment? The root lies in attachment. In Buddhist teachings, attachment refers to the clinging or craving for something, whether it's material possessions, relationships, or, in this case, approval. We become attached to an idea of ourselves that we want others to validate. This attachment turns into a trap, making us overly sensitive to how we think others perceive us. Buddha compared this attachment to carrying a heavy sack of stones. Each stone represents a worry, a judgment, or an opinion we take to heart. Over time, the sack grows heavier, making our journey through life more burdensome. But here's the good news. We have the power to put that sack down. Psychologists call this phenomenon the spotlight effect. It's the idea that we think others are paying far more attention to us than they actually are. This cognitive bias tricks us into believing that every mistake, every stumble, and every awkward moment is under intense scrutiny. But the reality is, most people are too caught up in their own spotlight to notice ours. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine tripping slightly while walking in public. Your mind might race with embarrassment, assuming everyone saw and judged you. But if you took a moment to observe, you'd realize that most people didn't even notice. Those who did likely forgot about it within seconds. This realization can be profoundly freeing. It shows how much power we give to thoughts that aren't based on reality. The Buddha often used nature metaphors to explain the workings of the mind. He likened the mind to a calm pond. When we dwell on judgments, whether our own or others, it's like throwing stones into the water. Each stone creates ripples that disturb the surface, making it impossible to see clearly. Judgments cloud our perception, preventing us from seeing the world as it truly is. These ripples are fueled by fear, fear of rejection, fear of failure, and fear of not being enough. But here's a key teaching. Those fears are illusions. They're like ripples that eventually fade if we stop throwing stones. In Buddhism, there's a concept called vipassana, or insight meditation, which encourages us to observe our thoughts without attachment. Through this practice, we learn to watch the ripples of judgment without reacting to them. Over time, the pond settles and clarity emerges. What's the real cost of worrying about what others think? It robs us of our freedom. We start making decisions not based on our values or desires, but on what we think will gain approval. This can lead to a life where we're constantly performing, always trying to meet external expectations instead of living authentically. Buddhism teaches us that judgment often reveals more about the one judging than the one being judged. When someone criticizes you, it's usually a reflection of their own fears, insecurities, or unmet expectations. This doesn't mean you should dismiss all feedback, but it does mean you can approach criticism with curiosity rather than defensiveness. For example, imagine someone criticizes your appearance. Instead of taking it personally, reflect on what might have motivated their comment. Perhaps they're projecting their own struggles with self-image. By understanding this, you can choose not to internalize their words. Breaking free from the illusion of judgment requires two key practices: awareness and compassion. Awareness. Become aware of when you're overthinking others' opinions. Notice the patterns. Does it happen in certain social settings, with specific people, or during particular activities? Awareness helps you identify triggers and take steps to address them. Compassion. Extend compassion to yourself and others. Recognize that everyone, including you, is navigating their own struggles. When you feel judged, remind yourself that it's not about you, it's about them. When you judge others, pause and reflect on what's driving your reaction. To bring this concept to life, consider the story of a young monk who struggled with the fear of being judged. Every time he spoke in front of others, he felt paralyzed by the thought of making a mistake. One day, his teacher gave him a small bell and said, "Every time you hear the bell ring, let it remind you that others' judgments are like its sound, temporary and fleeting." The monk carried the bell with him everywhere, and each time he felt judged, he rang it. Over time, the sound became a symbol of freedom, reminding him that judgments come and go, but his inner peace could remain constant. You too can find your bell, a reminder that the weight of others' opinions is not yours to carry. With practice, you'll discover that the only judgment that truly matters is your own. By embracing this wisdom, you begin to reclaim your energy, your focus, and your life. And in doing so, you take the first step toward a life of authenticity and inner peace. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is the concept of impermanence, known as anicca. It is the understanding that everything in life, our feelings, circumstances, relationships, and even the judgments of others, is in a constant state of change. Nothing remains fixed, and this transience is both a source of suffering and liberation. At first glance, impermanence might seem unsettling. If nothing is permanent, where can we find stability or meaning? But when viewed through the lens of wisdom, impermanence becomes a gateway to freedom. It teaches us to let go of attachments to things that are fleeting, including the opinions of others. Human beings have a natural tendency to seek stability. We want relationships to last forever, our successes to be permanent, and even others' opinions of us to remain favorable. This desire for permanence stems from the illusion of control. We believe that by holding on to something, we can prevent it from changing. But life, as Buddhism reminds us, is like a river. It flows continuously, and trying to stop it is futile. When we cling to the idea of permanence, we create suffering. For example, imagine a time when someone praised you for your work. That positive feedback felt good, didn't it? But what happened when the same person criticized you later? That praise didn't shield you from the sting of their criticism. This is the trap of attachment. It makes us vulnerable to the inevitable changes of life. Impermanence is not just a philosophical concept. It's a reality we experience every day. Think about your emotions. One moment you might feel joy, and the next, frustration. Or consider the changing seasons. Winter turns to spring, spring to summer, and so on. These cycles remind us that nothing remains the same forever. Let's apply this to the judgments of others. Imagine a friend who once admired your decisions suddenly questioning them. If you hold on to their earlier admiration as a fixed truth, their criticism can feel like a betrayal. But if you understand that their opinions are impermanent, shaped by their mood, experiences, or even misunderstandings, you can approach their words with equanimity. Impermanence, when fully embraced, is a source of profound freedom. It liberates us from the need to cling to external validation or fear external criticism. If others' opinions are like clouds in the sky, constantly shifting and changing, why should we let them dictate our happiness? Here's a transformative perspective. The opinions of others are not about you. They are reflections of their own experiences, biases, and struggles. By recognizing this, you can let go of the need to control how others see you. Consider the story of a Buddhist monk named Ajahn. He lived in a quiet monastery surrounded by a beautiful garden. One spring, the garden was in full bloom, and visitors came from far and wide to admire its beauty. They praised Ajahn for his dedication to maintaining such a stunning space. But as summer turned to autumn, the flowers wilted, and the garden lost its vibrancy. The same visitors returned and criticized Ajahn for letting it decline. Instead of feeling hurt, Ajahn smiled and said, "Just as the blooms were temporary, so too are your judgments. The garden teaches us that beauty and decay are part of the same cycle." This story illustrates how understanding impermanence can help us navigate praise and criticism with grace. Buddhism teaches that much of our suffering arises from attachment, not only to material things, but also to ideas, relationships, and even our self-image. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or becoming indifferent. Instead, it means releasing the grip of clinging and embracing life's natural flow. Think about how often we attach ourselves to a specific image or narrative. Maybe you've been told you're a kind person, and you feel pressured to live up to that label, even when setting boundaries or speaking up for yourself feels more authentic. This attachment to an idea of yourself creates inner conflict. Letting go of attachments doesn't erase who you are. It frees you to be more authentic. By accepting that these labels and judgments are temporary, you can live with greater ease. Here are some steps to integrate the concept of impermanence into your life. Observe change around you. Spend a day consciously noticing how things change. Watch the sunrise and sunset. Notice how your emotions shift, and observe the ebb and flow of conversations. This practice helps you see impermanence as a natural and constant part of life. Release fixed narratives. When someone praises or criticizes you, acknowledge it without attaching yourself to it. Remind yourself that their opinion is temporary and not the ultimate truth. Practice gratitude. Embrace the beauty of fleeting moments. Instead of lamenting their impermanence, cherish them for what they are. For instance, when enjoying time with loved ones, focus on the joy of the present moment rather than fearing its end. Meditation on impermanence. Take a few minutes each day to meditate on impermanence. Visualize a river flowing steadily and imagine placing your worries, judgments, or fears in the current. Watch as the river carries them away, reminding you that nothing is permanent. At first, impermanence might seem like a source of uncertainty, but it's also the key to hope. Because nothing lasts forever, pain, hardship, and even judgment are temporary. This understanding allows us to face challenges with resilience and grace. For example, if you are experiencing a difficult time at work or in a relationship, remember that this too shall pass. Impermanence assures us that no storm lasts forever. On the flip side, it also reminds us to savor the good times, knowing they are precious precisely because they are fleeting. Understanding impermanence shifts the way we approach life. Instead of clinging to what is comfortable or fearing what is uncertain, we learn to flow with life's changes. This doesn't mean passively accepting everything. It means engaging with life fully, knowing that its nature is to evolve. One way to embody this perspective is by adopting a mantra like, "This too shall pass." Whether you're facing praise or criticism, success or failure, repeat this phrase to yourself. It's a reminder that everything is transient, and you have the strength to navigate whatever comes your way. When we embrace impermanence, we start living more authentically. We stop wasting energy on things we can't control and focus on what truly matters: our values, our relationships, and our inner peace. We realize that the opinions of others, like passing clouds, do not define us. Instead, they become opportunities to practice mindfulness and self-compassion. The next time you find yourself dwelling on someone's words or seeking their approval, pause and reflect. Will this matter in a day, a month, a year? Often, the answer is no. With this awareness, you can let go and move forward with clarity and peace. Impermanence is not a limitation. It's a gift. It teaches us to let go of the weight of others' judgments, embrace the present moment, and live with a sense of freedom. By understanding that nothing lasts forever, not our struggles, not our successes, and certainly not the opinions of others, we can navigate life with grace and equanimity. Remember, you are like the river, always flowing, always evolving. Trust in the natural rhythm of life, and let impermanence guide you toward the freedom to be your truest self. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present in the moment, free from the distractions of past regrets or future anxieties. In the context of overthinking others' opinions, mindfulness becomes a powerful tool to reclaim your peace. It helps you break free from the mental chatter that clouds your judgment and keeps you tethered to external validation. Buddha often taught that our suffering stems not from what happens to us, but from our reaction to it. Mindfulness teaches us to observe our reactions without becoming entangled in them. By practicing mindfulness, you create space between the stimulus, such as someone's opinion, and your response. In this space lies your freedom. Let's face it, staying present is challenging. Our minds are naturally restless, flitting from one thought to another like a butterfly darting between flowers. This tendency is exacerbated in today's fast-paced world, where distractions are everywhere, from our phones to our constant exposure to other people's curated lives on social media. When we're consumed by thoughts of what others think, we're not truly present. We're living in an imaginary world where we construct stories about others' judgments, often exaggerating their significance. These stories then dictate our emotions, actions, and even our sense of self-worth. Mindfulness invites us to step out of this cycle and into the reality of the present moment. Mindfulness acts as a shield, protecting us from the emotional turbulence caused by overthinking. When we're mindful, we observe our thoughts without identifying with them. Instead of thinking, "They think I'm not good enough," we recognize it as just a thought. I notice a worry arising about others' opinions. This subtle shift helps us see our thoughts as temporary and impersonal, rather than as absolute truths. Modern science has corroborated what Buddhist teachings have long suggested. Mindfulness has profound psychological and physiological benefits. Research shows that mindfulness reduces stress, improves focus, and enhances emotional regulation. For someone trapped in the cycle of overthinking, these benefits are transformative. Mindfulness activates the brain's prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for rational thinking and emotional control, while calming the amygdala, which governs fear and anxiety. This balance allows you to approach situations with clarity and calm, rather than being overwhelmed by emotional reactivity. Here are some practical mindfulness exercises to help you navigate overthinking and focus on the present moment. The 3-breath anchor. Whenever you notice yourself spiraling into thoughts about others, pause and take 3 deep breaths. With each inhale, focus on the sensation of the air entering your nose. With each exhale, imagine letting go of the thoughts troubling you. This simple practice grounds you in the present and creates a pause in your thought process. Body scan meditation. Lie down or sit comfortably. Close your eyes and slowly bring your attention to different parts of your body, starting from your toes and moving upward. Notice any sensations without judgment. This exercise helps you reconnect with your body, pulling you out of your mind's narratives about others' opinions. Mindful observation. Choose an object in your environment, a flower, a cup, or even a candle. Spend a few minutes observing it closely. Notice its color, texture, shape, and details you might otherwise overlook. This practice trains your mind to focus fully on the present, making it easier to detach from distracting thoughts. Integrating mindfulness into daily life. Mindfulness isn't just about formal meditation sessions. It's a way of living. Here are ways to incorporate mindfulness into your daily routine. Instead of rushing through meals, savor each bite. Notice the flavors, textures, and aroma of your food. This practice not only enhances your appreciation for what you're eating, but also brings you into the present moment. Mindful walking. When walking, pay attention to the sensation of your feet touching the ground, the rhythm of your steps, and the sounds around you. Leave your phone behind and immerse yourself in the act of walking. When speaking with someone, give them your full attention. Listen without planning your response or letting your mind wander. This deep presence fosters genuine connection and reduces anxiety about how you're being perceived. One of the most common barriers to mindfulness is the inner critic, a relentless voice that judges, compares, and doubts. The inner critic thrives on overthinking others' opinions, often amplifying insecurities and fears. Mindfulness allows you to observe the inner critic without engaging with it. When you hear that critical voice, acknowledge its presence but don't let it take over. For example, if your inner critic says they think you're not good enough, respond with curiosity. Why does this thought keep coming up? Over time, this practice weakens the grip of the inner critic and replaces self-judgment with self-compassion. In Buddhist traditions, there's a story of a monk who was tormented by self-doubt. Every time he tried to meditate, his mind was flooded with thoughts of unworthiness and fears about others' judgments. Frustrated, he went to his teacher and asked, "How can I silence these thoughts?" The teacher handed him a cup of tea and said, "Drink this slowly, noticing each sip." As the monk focused on the warmth of the tea and the sensation of each swallow, his mind quieted. He realized that his thoughts weren't as overpowering as he had believed. They were like background noise that faded when he gave his attention to the present moment. This simple act of mindful tea drinking became a turning point for the monk, teaching him that mindfulness could dissolve even the loudest doubts. Practicing mindfulness doesn't just benefit you, it positively impacts those around you. When you're fully present, you bring calm and clarity to your interactions, reducing misunderstandings and fostering deeper connections. Mindfulness also helps you respond to others' judgments with kindness rather than defensiveness, creating a ripple effect of compassion and understanding. For instance, imagine someone criticizes your work. Without mindfulness, you might react impulsively, feeling hurt or angry. But with mindfulness, you can pause, acknowledge your initial reaction, and choose a measured response. This not only preserves your inner peace but also strengthens your relationships. Consistency is key to reaping the full benefits of mindfulness. Start with just 5 minutes a day and gradually increase the duration. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to remain present, even in challenging situations. Keep in mind that mindfulness is not about achieving a perfect state of calm. It's about noticing what's happening without judgment. Some days, your mind will be busy, and that's okay. Each time you bring your attention back to the present, you're strengthening your mindfulness muscle. Mindfulness is a gift you give yourself, a chance to step out of the whirlwind of overthinking and reconnect with the simplicity of the present moment. By practicing mindfulness, you learn to navigate life's challenges with grace, seeing thoughts of judgment for what they truly are, fleeting, insubstantial, and ultimately powerless over your peace. As you continue this journey, remember that mindfulness is both the path and the destination. Each mindful breath, each moment of presence, brings you closer to the freedom and clarity you seek. And in this space of awareness, you'll discover a profound truth. The opinions of others are like passing clouds, but your true self is the vast, unshakable sky. Authenticity is a buzzword in today's world, but living authentically isn't always easy. From a young age, we're taught to fit into molds, be it as a model student, a successful professional, or a dutiful family member. These roles often come with expectations, many of which are imposed by others. Over time, we lose touch with who we are at our core, prioritizing the approval of others over our own truth. Buddhism teaches that living authentically begins with recognizing the illusion of the self. The self we project to the world is often a construct shaped by societal norms, fears, and desires. By peeling back these layers, we can rediscover our true nature. One of the biggest barriers to authenticity is the fear of vulnerability. Showing your true self can feel risky. What if people don't accept you? What if they judge you? But, as the Buddha taught, clinging to a false sense of self only creates suffering. Vulnerability, on the other hand, is the gateway to genuine connection and inner peace. Identify your values. Take time to reflect on what truly matters to you. Are your daily actions aligned with these values? If not, what changes can you make to live more authentically? Set boundaries. Living authentically means saying no to things that don't align with your truth. This can be challenging, but it's an act of self-respect. Practice honest communication. Speak your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Authenticity doesn't mean being confrontational. It means expressing yourself with kindness and clarity. Living authentically liberates you from the constant need to seek approval. It allows you to connect with others on a deeper level because you're no longer hiding behind a mask. As the Buddha said, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. When you live authentically, your actions and words carry the weight of truth, inspiring others to do the same. Compassion is a cornerstone of Buddhist practice, and it begins with yourself. Many of us are harsher critics of ourselves than anyone else could ever be. We replay mistakes, dwell on perceived flaws, and compare ourselves to others, often coming up short. Buddhism teaches that self-compassion is not indulgent. It's essential for growth and healing. When we extend compassion to ourselves, it becomes easier to offer it to others. Recognizing that everyone carries their own burdens helps us approach others' judgments with understanding rather than defensiveness. Self-compassion meditation. Sit quietly and reflect on a moment of self-criticism. Place your hand on your heart and silently say, "May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am." Repeat this until you feel a sense of warmth and acceptance. Compassion for others. When someone criticizes you, pause and consider what might be motivating their behavior. Are they projecting their own insecurities? This perspective can transform resentment into understanding. Acts of kindness. Small gestures of kindness. A smile, a thoughtful message, or helping someone in need create a ripple effect of compassion. Compassion naturally reduces judgment. When you see others as complex beings with their own struggles, it becomes harder to judge them harshly. The Buddha's teaching of interconnectedness reminds us that we are all part of the same human experience. By cultivating compassion, you not only free yourself from judgment, but also contribute to a kinder world. Approval can feel like a warm embrace. It validates us, makes us feel seen, and reassures us that we're on the right path. But chasing approval often leads to exhaustion and self-betrayal. Buddhism teaches that true peace comes from within, not from the fleeting validation of others. The need for approval creates a dependency on external factors. When others praise us, we feel elated. When they criticize us, we feel diminished. This roller coaster of emotions keeps us trapped in a cycle of striving for validation and fearing rejection. Shift your focus inward. Instead of asking, "What will they think?" ask yourself, "Does this align with my values?" Detach from praise and criticism. Both praise and criticism are temporary. Neither defines your worth. Practice acknowledging them without attaching yourself to them. Develop internal validation. Celebrate your achievements and growth, no matter how small, without relying on external recognition. A young artist once sought constant feedback on her work. She adjusted her style to fit others' tastes, but this left her feeling unfulfilled. One day, she decided to create solely for herself. The freedom she felt transformed her art and her life. By letting go of the need for approval, she found joy in the creative process itself. When you stop chasing approval, you free yourself to live authentically. You make choices based on what truly matters to you, not on what others expect. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom, living with integrity and peace, regardless of external opinions. Your journey toward inner peace doesn't just benefit you. It has a ripple effect on those around you. When you live authentically and with compassion, you inspire others to do the same. Your calm presence becomes a source of strength for others, showing them what's possible. Lead by example. Actions speak louder than words. By embodying mindfulness, compassion, and authenticity, you become a living example of Buddhist principles. Offer kindness freely. A kind word, a listening ear, or a supportive gesture can profoundly impact someone's day. These small acts of generosity demonstrate the power of compassion. Create safe spaces. Encourage open, judgment-free conversations where others feel seen and heard. This fosters deeper connections and mutual growth. Not everyone is ready to embrace the path of mindfulness and self-compassion. That's okay. Your role is not to convince but to inspire. Plant seeds of wisdom through your actions, and trust that they will grow when the time is right. Remember that you are not alone in your struggles or your growth. The interconnectedness of all beings means that your journey is part of a larger tapestry. By sharing your insights and learning from others, you contribute to a collective awakening. As you continue this journey, remember that the greatest gift you can give the world is your authentic, compassionate self. By embracing mindfulness, letting go of judgment, and breaking free from the approval trap, you create a life of peace and purpose. And in sharing your journey with others, you extend this gift beyond yourself, inspiring others to find their own path to freedom. In this way, your growth becomes a beacon of light in a world that often feels dark. So, take a deep breath, step forward, and live boldly. The world needs your unique wisdom and love.